One thing I want to touch upon, I usually don't take questions from the stream or look at the comments, but this is an important one that was forwarded to me. I just maybe get a quick um, response from you, and that is, what advice could you give? What legal advice, perhaps, as well, maybe in terms of people who are maybe in the state of isolation, but they're going through some type of physical or emotional abuse within the household. So, what maybe from a legal perspective, can this person do? Because we know from a dean perspective that everyone has their own test. Some people are going through abuse. Some people through are going through that emotional, mental abuse, physical abuse. Some people are unjustly imprisoned. There's oppression happening. There's all sorts of different problems that a person's doing. A person could be right now in the ICU battling for their life. So everyone has their own test, and ultimately, spiritually, we turn to Allah. Ultimately, we don't fear a person. Ultimately, we should not fear death. But yet, as an amana to our body, we need to fight to preserve our life. So yes, we need to make ourselves with a strong will, to do that. And part of that is, yes, we should seek justice for ourselves or people that we know who are oppressed. And so, as part of that process, as a Muslim, what legal advice do you have in regards to that?
Well, you know, um, we are going through a profound period of where we're being tested, but nowhere within any tradition is it mandated that one withstand physical violence, violence to the person, abuse of any sort. That's a different category, right? That's a different category. So if someone is undergoing abuse that is threatening their person, that is threatening another member of the household, um, physically, mentally, emotionally, that's obviously not healthy. Notwithstanding that we were talking about earlier about institutional power being inherently limited and full control and powers with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the institutions are in Canada, in Alberta, are all fully functional, as of right now. And if one feels the need to reach out to law enforcement, if things are really that bad, then they should do so. Um, Again, I reiterate, no one is expected to endure abuse. That's not part of the program under any conditions, COVID or otherwise. What I would also say is if people feel as though they're in a bit of a gray area, it's not necessarily where they feel there's an immediate risk to their personal safety, but they are just at it. They are at their wits' end, and someone is really emotionally abusing them, mentally abusing them. There are other institutions and organizations that are in place. One of the Muslim community's best organizations, best run and organized organizations. There's no point in trying to reinvent the wheels here. They have professionals there to deal with these types of situations, and they act almost as
Which organization did you mention? Which organization? IFSA.
IFSA.
Okay. So if there is obviously a life-threatening situation of abuse, your life and limb is in jeopardy, then everything is still fully functional in terms of law enforcement and getting that, getting protective services or whatever that you will require. But I think you make a good point that if it's a gray area, then there is some, you don't necessarily have to take those full measures. So contacting IFSA, you said an organization to deal with that. Would you agree then also perhaps even contacting like imams of masajid, perhaps depending on the imam? Like I know the different imams have different areas of expertise, but some are quite helpful. There are some imams that are willing to help. And I think that we should never undermine, like, yes, you do have IFSA. You do. Are there other Islamic organizations that specialize in this area?
I think IFSA is built for this. They're the Islamic Family Social Services Association. And when it comes to family counseling, when it comes to um, um, references to psychologists. We have registered, licensed, practicing Muslim psychologists in the city. And they work with IFSA. They also can be contacted privately and independently.
A lot of our viewers are from all over Canada. So
Right.
I want to give them more broader advice. So if there is an organization that specifically deals with family and social services issues, then you should contact them. And then certain I would say another thing from the Islamic perspective, that reaching out to your family members too. So like, you have, whether it's your parents, whether it's your siblings. So reaching out to family members as well. This is part of the Islamic tradition of mediation.
Absolutely.
And obviously you try to pick those who are going to de-escalate the situation rather than escalate the situation. I think also in a time like this, because this is still within regulation and what's being given as instructive guideline from Canadian government. But if family members need to stay with other family members for periods of time for things to cool off, because things can get heated perhaps, and people can be in each other's face, and being in close proximity to one another can lead to this. And for many areas in Canada, it's very cold. You might not necessarily be able to go for a walk or spend a lot of time outdoors anywhere. So maybe perhaps, and you can't even really go to the masjid and stay there for long periods of time. So maybe finding a family member's house, if you're able to, their home, and staying there for a period of time can also, like, these are, I would say, some of the in this gray area, some more mediative steps that one could probably take.
And what I would go one step further than that, Dr. Syed. I know we're probably running out of time. We don't have that much time left. But
Yes.
one thing that I would say is that what you and I have been chatting about up until now have been reactive measures. It is incumbent, I think, upon everyone that can do so to take proactive measures. So don't wait for something to go wrong. Don't wait for someone to light the fuse in a verbal argument. I think we have to be proactively forgiving. I think we have to be proactively coming up with schedules and activities that kind of create a light atmosphere. It can be a bit of a double-edged sword if you have too many heart-to-heart discussions too often,
Yeah.
because when people are being real and when people are being very absolutely candid, you don't know what direction that can go in. So it's a bit of a balancing act. It is important to be proactive in mindset about wanting to actively, for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trying to improve relations, because that's the ultimate goal, right? If you start out with, so you make sure you have the proper niyyah, make sure you have the proper intention, and then you go out with a proactive mindset, actively trying to, and just trying to proactively remain kind of in as tranquil a state and light a state as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things that you touched on, some practical means, is that, just let things go. If things are going to escalate a situation, silence is better. Silence is better than speaking. And as you mentioned as well, using humor, trying to keep things light. Everything doesn't have to be serious. Everything doesn't have to be a confrontation. You don't have to release your stress and your tension out, on the people around you. Whatever you put out in the world is going to come back to you. That's what's
Right.
going to happen. So if you want to be happy, you put happiness out. If that's how you want to feel, put that out. If you want to laugh, make somebody else laugh.
Right.
And I think this is a time, as you mentioned, we can seriously work on that aspect of communication and relationship. I'm gonna let you go, bro, because I know you have to go, and you stayed longer than we had it first originally planned. But Jazakallah khair for coming on. I apologize to the viewers. We're having this technical issues, and we're going to make sure that we put some considerations in place and hopefully avoid this in the future.